Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The topic of today's lecture is metabolic bone disease. At the end of the lecture, you should be able to define what is metabolic bone disease, what are its types, and then we will discuss two important metabolic diseases: osteoporosis, rickets, and osteomalacia, pathogenesis, morphology, and complications. And when we are discussing rickets and osteomalacia, we should know as a background knowledge vitamin D and parathyroid metabolism and functions of these two important chemicals. Then briefly we will talk about renal osteodystrophy, its pathogenesis and morphology. Now, there are four important conditions of which come under the heading of metabolic bone disease: osteoporosis, osteomalacia, rickets in children, hyperparathyroidism, here we mean secondary hyperparathyroidism, and renal osteodystrophy, where in chronic renal disease or end stage kidney disease with chronic renal failure, what changes actually occur in the bones. Now, before we discuss the topic of osteoporosis, we should know as a background knowledge bone structure and histology. Bone consists of proteinaceous matrix known as osteoid matrix, which mainly consists of type 1 collagen and also proteoglycans, which provide support to mineral component. And mineral component is the crystals of calcium hydroxyapatite, which contains calcium and phosphate. There are two types of bones: compact or cortical bones, that is the long bones, and the spongy trabecular bones, the flat bones, also known as cancellous bones. They are there, for example, the skull, vertebrae, and the ribs and femoral neck. Mature bone undergoes constant remodeling. I will let you know what is the concept of remodeling. Now, the cells of the bone, osteoclasts are the bone resorption cells which actually mobilize calcium and phosphorus from the bone. Osteoblasts are the bone forming cells which lay down osteoid matrix. Then osteocytes, they are the cells which have similar function as osteoclasts, that is a resorption of calcium and phosphorus, and also they have function to regulate mechanical forces of the bones. Now, talking about remodeling, excuse me. Normally there is a fine balance between bone laying down, that is the osteoid matrix and its mineralization, and bone resorption, and this is coordinated by certain hormones, growth factors, and cytokines. And if there is a disruption in this orderly process of laying down of bone and its reabsorption, metabolic bone disease would occur. Now, maximum bone density is achieved in young adulthood, and in 40s there is a decline in bone density by the rate of 0.7% per year, and it depends on the nutritional status, race, genetic factors, environmental factors, physical activity, how much density you can achieve in your adulthood. Now, coming to the topic of osteoporosis, by definition it is a loss of organic matrix mainly, resulting in decrease in bone mass and density. Now, when I say mainly, it means that it is just not loss of organic matrix, also there is some element of increased calcium and phosphorus mobilization from the bones, that is bone resorption is also there. We conventionally divide osteoporosis into two categories: generalized and localized. by and large, when we say osteoporosis, we mean generalized or osteoporosis involving most of the bones of the body. This may be in the cortical bone or trabecular bones. Now there will be imbalance in the bone formation, that is osteoblastic activity, and bone resorption, that is osteoclastic activity. In most situations, there is decline in osteoblastic activity and increase in the bone resorption, that is more activity of the osteoclast. We conventionally divide osteoporosis into two categories, primary and secondary. In primary, senile osteoporosis and postmenopausal, of course, due to estrogen deficiency in females. Secondary causes, long list: endocrine causes, thyrotoxicosis, hypothyroidism, hyperparathyroidism, Cushing's disease, diabetes mellitus, hypogonadism. The mechanism underlying this is beyond the scope of this lecture. You will be being taught in your higher classes when we deal with these particular topics. Prolonged steroid therapy, chronic alcoholism, prolonged heparin therapy would also result in osteoporosis. Then immobilization, for example, due to trauma or disease, calcium vitamin D deficiency with or without malabsorption. They can also add or contribute towards secondary osteoporosis. Then you have genetic factors or familial predisposition, because it may run in the families. Sometimes there is single gene defects or polymorphism, especially in LRPF gene, which actually controls bone metabolism. Multifactorial means that both environmental factors and genetic factors playing a role. Physical activity plays an important role. If there is increased physical activity, this promotes osteoblastic activity. And if there is a decline in physical activity, there will be decreased osteoblastic activity and increase in osteoclastic activity, promoting osteoporosis. Now, before we go to the actual pathogenesis of primary osteoporosis, a very important pathway known as rank-rank ligand NF-κB pathway needs to be explained. Now, on the stromal cells and the osteoblasts, there are ligands known as rank ligands, and on the precursors of osteoclasts, there are receptors for this rank ligand or rank receptors. This interaction can be blocked by another protein, which is a decoy factor known as osteopetegrin, and this can block the interaction between rank ligand and rank receptors. There is another pathway, monocyte colony stimulating factor, which can aid towards this rank-rank ligand pathway. On the precursors of osteoclast, there is NF-κB pathway, which is triggered whenever this rank interaction takes place. And then there is a differentiation of this immature or precursors osteoclast into highly active bone crunching osteoclast, which can practically mobilize calcium and phosphorus from the bones. So bone resorption will occur. Osteopetegrin has opposite effect. When osteopetegrin is upregulated, it will block rank-rank ligand pathway and there will be decreased bone resorption, because ultimately osteoclasts, which are bone crunching, will not be formed. And if osteopetegrin is down-regulated, rank-rank ligand pathway is upregulated. Now, type 1 is postmenopausal, which is mainly because of the decline in estrogen level, and that occurs predominantly in trabecular bones or cancellous bones. Whenever there is decrease in estrogen, there is increase in tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukin 1 and sometimes interleukin 6, which upgrade or activate rank-rank ligand pathway, resulting in increased osteoclastic activity. So in postmenopausal female, there is decrease in estrogen, there is increase in interleukin 1, 6 and tumor effect alpha, upgrading the rank-rank ligand pathway, resulting in increased osteoclastic activity. Whereas in senile osteoporosis, there is decreased activity of osteoblasts and its precursors, and as a result of that, rank-rank ligand pathway is not properly regulated. Similarly, there is decrease bone matrix laying down because osteoblastic activity is not there. Reduced physical activity also in the old age also contributes towards decreased osteoblastic activity, and decreased testosterone level in males definitely also contributes towards decreased osteoblastic activity. So both postmenopausal females and in senile osteoporosis, irrespective of sex, except for the testosterone, they will lead to osteoporosis. So if there is a dysregulation in rank-rank ligand and OPG interactions, there will be increased osteoclastic activity, and definitely bone resorption will be there and osteoporosis will happen. And aging, already mentioned that decreased testosterone level resulting in decreased osteoblastic activity and decreased physical activity also contributing towards decreased osteoblastic activity, mainly will result in decreased laying down of bone matrix, and usually in senile osteoporosis the cortical bones are affected. Now if you see here, this is the normal bone structure, which typically are well defined, thick, and Haversian canals are not dilated, whereas in osteoporotic bones, in the cortical bones, this is broken, trabeculae thinned out, and Haversian canals widening. Now if you see here, in case of osteoporosis in cancellous bones or trabecular bones like vertebrae, skull, neck of femur, here this is the example of vertebrae. It is, if you compare with the normal one, it is compressed, then the horizontal trabeculae, they are lost, only vertical trabeculae are there, and practically there are holes within the vertebrae. Here the trabeculae in normal one are thick, Haversian canals are not very widened, whereas in osteoporotic bone, as shown before, the trabeculae thinned out and there is widening of Haversian canals. Now this is the hemotoxin eosin staining, which is showing the trabeculae are distorted and they are broken. What are the complications? Skeletal deformities like kyphosis, kyphoscoliosis, where the vertebrae, they are collapsed and they will be stooping posture with stiffness in the back, bone pains and tenderness, pathological fractures. Vertebral collapse and femoral neck fractures are very worrisome because they lead to complications like pulmonary embolism, pneumonia, paralysis, and of course shortening, progressive loss of height in case of vertebral collapse. Mainly the diagnosis is clinical. Laboratory diagnosis is not very supporting because the calcium levels, phosphorus levels is usually not decreased. Radiological diagnosis is important. Quantitative computerized tomography, dual energy absorptiometry, and bone scans. They are highly specialized radiological investigations which can be done in specialized centers to exactly find out bone density and thickness. Now let's move on to the second important topic, osteomalacia and rickets. Rickets means, in fact, it is occurring in the children, in growing children, when the growing epiphysis or growing end of the bones have not closed, whereas osteomalacia is seen in adulthood. Now, mainly it is because of the defective mineralization of the osteoid matrix because of the vitamin D deficiency and inadequate calcium. Now, if you remember, in osteoporosis, mainly it is the defect in the laying down of bone because of the decreased osteoblastic activity that supervenes. Whereas in this case, there is less amount of calcium and phosphorus to mineralize the osteoid matrix. Before we move on to the pathogenesis and morphological features of rickets and osteomalacia, let's talk about vitamin D metabolism in a nutshell. The main source is endogenous in the skin, where the ultraviolet rays from the sunlight converts 7-dihydrocholesterol into cholecalciferol, which is the most active form of vitamin D, known as vitamin D3. There is a dietary source which is only 10% from deep sea fish, legumes and grains and fresh vegetables. The absorption of vitamin D, which is a fat soluble vitamin, is from the guts and also endogenous source from the skin. It is stored in the liver, and also in the liver there is conversion to 25-hydroxy vitamin D by an enzyme known as 25-hydroxylase. Then in the kidney there is conversion into most active form, that is vitamin D3, called 1,25-dihydroxy vitamin D. This is done by an enzyme known as 1-alpha-hydroxylase. This activity of this enzyme is regulated by calcium and phosphorus level. Whenever there is hypocalcemia, this will trigger parathyroid hormone, which will activate the enzyme 1-alpha-hydroxylase, and there will be formation of active vitamin D. Whenever there is hypophosphatemia, it will directly activate 1-alpha-hydroxylase to increase the level of vitamin D3. And there is a negative feedback mechanism. Whenever this vitamin D3 level is restored, the activity of 1-alpha-hydroxylase is decreased and the function of enzyme is not there, so active form will be normalized. Now in the skin, already mentioned, through ultraviolet light, vitamin D3 active form is formed, which goes to the liver, where then to the kidneys, and the most active form 1,25-dihydroxy vitamin D is formed. In case of diet, it is absorbed through intestine. It's a fat soluble vitamin, where it will be finally converted into the active form like before. Functions of vitamin D are important. Of course, they are important in the maintenance of calcium and phosphorus homeostasis. In many nucleated cells, we have receptors for 1,25-dihydroxy vitamin D. So their important function is that it will increase intestinal absorption of calcium and phosphorus, and it also results in decreased excretion of calcium from the kidneys. There is also parathyroid hormone dependent absorption of calcium in distal renal tubules. So all these factors will contribute towards restoration of calcium level in the blood. Then it also favors rank-rank ligand pathway upregulation, which ultimately would result in calcium mobilization from the bones. Very important function of osteoblast activation by the vitamin D, and this will result in the formation of a protein known as osteocalcin, which results in the deposition of calcium on osteoid matrix, that is bone mineralization. So this is an opposing effect. On one hand, it results in mobilization of calcium, but in normocalcemic, that is those individuals who have normal calcium level, there will be of course deposition of calcium on osteoid matrix. Then anti-proliferative effect. If there is vitamin D deficiency, they say that because the anti-proliferative effect is lost, then it may result in malignancy. Neuromuscular transmission is important, role of vitamin D through calcium. What are the causes and risk factors of osteomalacia and rickets? Definitely deficiency of calcium and vitamin D. This may be because of the decreased exposure to sunlight or malabsorption, chronic diarrhea, chronic renal disease, chronic liver disease, and very rarely vitamin D resistant rickets, where the receptors of vitamin D on nucleated cells, they are resistant to actually accept vitamin D. Now, role of parathyroid hormone. Whenever there is hypocalcemia, there is increase in parathyroid hormone, and it is definitely results in alpha-1 hydroxylase upregulation, and active form of vitamin D is formed, and the functions which I have already discussed. It also results in decreased renal calcium excretion, but there will be increased excretion of phosphorus. So they run opposite to each other. Serum calcium level may be restored, but not the phosphorus level. So in this diagram it has been shown that the parathyroid hormone will result ultimately in reabsorption of calcium and phosphorus from the bones, and it will help through vitamin D to absorb calcium and phosphorus, and also activation of vitamin D into active form, that is vitamin D3. Now, before we embark on the morphology of rickets and osteomalacia, we must know types of ossification. There's two types, intramembranous and endochondral. Intramembranous ossification occurs in flat bones where osteoblasts directly lay down bony matrix and then it is mineralized. Whereas in endochondral ossification, which occurs in the long bones or tubular bones, there is first laying down of cartilage which has to be mineralized, and then it disintegrates, and finally bony matrix is laid down, which is again has to be mineralized. Now, what happens in children in growing cartilage at epiphyseal ends? This function is disturbed because of lack of mineralization, and that results in rickets, and we will subsequently find out that. Now, what happens in rickets? In the growing cartilage epiphyseal end, there is inadequate calcification that will result in the overgrowth of cartilage, and the cartilage will overgrow in the form of irregular pieces, and osteoid matrix will be laid down on this irregular cartilage which is overgrown, which again will not be mineralized. So again there is deposition, excessive amount of deposition of unmineralized osteoid matrix. Here you can see this is the normal growing end of the or epiphyseal end of the long bones, but on the other hand you see that it is very irregular because the cartilage is not being calcified, and there is excessive amount of osteoid matrix being laid down. So ultimately there will be enlargement of osteochondral junction, will be thick, the bone will be weak because it has not been mineralized. So there will be microfractures bleeding over there, and also there will be formation of new capillaries and fibroblastic proliferation. In hemotoxin eosin staining, you can see normally there is palisading, well-defined palisading of the cartilage, which undergoes calcification and then replaced by the osteoid matrix. Here you see there is no palisading, haphazard laying down of cartilage. The thick pieces have been mineralized but not the small pieces, and then the smooth transition from cartilage to osteoid matrix is not there. Now, what are the skeletal deformities in rickets? Craniotabes is a term used when you press the occiput, it becomes flattened out, and in case of parietal bones, when you press, it will be and you release the pressure, it will recoil like elastic recoil. Then because of the excessive laying down of the osteoid matrix, there is frontal bossing and square head. Then rickety rosary in the costochondral junction, there is excessive laying down of osteoid, so they will be in the form of blebs, you can see over here. Pigeon chest deformity is actually protrusion of the interior part of the sternum because of the defective action of the respiratory muscles. Harrison's sulcus or groove, there is inward pulling of the margins of diaphragm because of the soft ribs on inspiration. Lumbar lordosis due to involvement of spine. Bowing of legs, the legs bones are weak, so they give way as a result of the pressure of weight. So there will be bending of the long bones. Sometimes there is knock knees. The deformity is such that there is approximation of knee joints. Excessive laying down of osteoid matrix in the epiphysis of the radius will be thickening and widening of the wrist, known as widening of wrist. In the radiograph, you can see here this widening of epiphysis and also thickening, cupping of metaphysis, and you can see that the diaphysis there is bowing or bending, and there are blurry trabeculae. Similarly here, same changes occurring in the epiphyseal and bowing of legs, and there is a microfracture in the osteomalacia is the adult counterpart of rickets, where the bones have stopped growing and the epiphyseal plates have actually fused. Now there is inadequate mineralization of osteoid, but contours of bone not affected, and also there is no bony deformities, but the bones will be weak and there may be fractures. In hematoxylin eosin staining, there will be thickened layer of unmineralized osteoid matrix, and there also may be concomitant increase in the osteoclastic activity, and also there may be muscular pain. Clinical features mainly as a result of rickets, bone pain and tenderness, skeletal deformities already mentioned, there may be pathological fractures, muscular weakness may also be there. When calcium level in the serum is very low, there may be hypocalcemic tetany, and there may be fits. Very important thing to remember that osteomalacia and rickets, osteomalacia or rickets may coexist with osteoporosis. Now if you compare rickets and osteomalacia, in both of them there is inadequate mineralization, the cartilage and trabeculae distorted, and there may be microfractures, irregular pieces of osteoid is seen in both of them, and there is defective mineralization. In case of rickets, both bone and cartilage. In case of osteomalacia, only bone. Whereas in osteoporosis, the main defect is the decreased total bone mass or osteoid matrix, and thin interrupted broken trabeculae with adequate calcium. There is of course no increase in the osteoid, and by and large no defective mineralization. Skeletal deformities common seen in rickets, less in case of osteomalacia, but mainly here they are trabeculae are affected. Microinfarcts, pathological fractures seen in all. Serum calcium phosphorus level is low in rickets. Calcium may be low in rickets, but usually no biochemical changes in osteoporosis. So biochemical changes, I've already mentioned calcium, phosphorus and all alkaline phosphates, vitamin D usually normal unless there is a concomitant vitamin D deficiency. Whereas calcium phosphorus decrease, alkaline phosphatase increase, and vitamin D is usually decrease in osteomalacia and rickets. Now few words about renal osteodystrophy. This results because of the chronic renal disease, mainly because of end-stage kidney failure, and the bony changes occurring is known as osteodystrophy. There may be hyperphosphatemia and hypocalcemia in chronic kidney disease, and this, as a result of this, the vitamin D function is disturbed because kidney cannot activate vitamin D. So there will be hypocalcemia, and this will trigger secondary hyperparathyroidism with excessive mobilization of calcium and phosphorus from bone, and because of the renal failure there may be metabolic acidosis. This will further aggravate the situation. Now here you see that whenever there is chronic renal failure, the excretion of phosphate, renal excretion will be impaired. There will be increased serum phosphate level, and calcium level will go opposite. There will be decreased calcium level, and parathyroid hormone will trigger, and this will result in conditions of osteoporosis, osteomalacia, and osteitis fibrosa cystica, which I will just explain. Similarly, osteomalacia will definitely occur because vitamin D is not being activated. Now, what are the bony changes which are occurring? This is osteoporosis with or without osteomalacia. There may be cystic changes and osteoporotic changes you can observe over here. And then a condition known as osteitis fibrosa cystica, where there is actually osteoporotic changes, peritubercular fibrosis, and cystic changes. Then sometimes it may turn into a tumor known as brown tumor, where you have excessive fibrosis. You can see over here, fibrovascular tissue is increased, and there will be many osteoclasts over here, and there may be some hemorrhages which ultimately give brown color to the bone known as brown tumor. Now this finishes with the topic. If you have any queries or questions, you can refer to my email address.